Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, electrical contractors and NECA community. Welcome to the March edition of the Workplace Health and Safety Risk Focus session. I'm Christopher Gradwell, NECA Queensland State Manager for Membership, and today I'm joined by my colleague, Sean.
Yeah, hello, my name's Sean Beat. I'm the Health and Safety Environment Quality Advisor for the NECA Safe team for Queensland and Tasmania.
So today we are broadcasting from Hayman's Brisbane Airport. Now, a little fun fact here is that this is the largest electrical wholesaler branch in the Southern Hemisphere. So we're actually really honoured to be here. They've got such a fantastic team, such a fantastic range, and cater to so many electrical contractors within our community. It's a real pleasure that these guys do so much with NECA and our electrical community and support our industry through many endeavours, including information and training sessions like this. So whilst we are live in the broadcast to all our members and a lot of the electrical community here, we've also got contractors in the room joining us for our information session. The boys at Hayman's have put on breakfast for the team. So yeah, just like to acknowledge those guys here. So today our risk focus session is talking about chemicals and toxic substances. Not talking about myself as toxic. It has been referred to once or twice, but that's what our session is today. So Sean, I'm going to hand over to you as the expert of the matter, and you can discuss from there.
No, I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you very much. So I do want to talk about a couple of different toxic substances today, and along with chemicals as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is asbestos. So asbestos has been around in our industry essentially for the entire time that I've been working as an electrician. Asbestos causes asbestosis, lung cancer, and the mesothelioma. Asbestos has around 4,000 deaths annually in Australia. The minimal exposure can lead you to fatal diseases. The common areas where we're seeing electricians exposed to asbestos is in renovations and maintenance. Even if you're living or working in older buildings, your ceilings, walls, roofs, wall cladding, everything has the potential to contain asbestos, especially pre-1970. If you're working with asbestos without taking control measures, there's a chance of you exposing your family members to the fibers just by bringing uniforms home. Improper handling and removal is definitely one of the worst things we can do in our industry. And even if you're working within infrastructure, electrical pits, electrical conduits, pre-1970, they all contain asbestos-containing material. So be very cautious when you're going to work anywhere pre-1970. Older buildings will have an asbestos register, and you have to go and read that prior to working in those buildings. The next subject I want to talk about is lead. So it's not as widely spoken about in our industry, but if you're working with older buildings and installations, especially pre-1980, you can have exposure to lead. This can be found in ceilings, subfloors, cavities in the form of buildup or dust. So if you're pulling new cables over existing cable trays, I know that times I've done it before in older buildings, it's dirty, it's dusty, you're kicking up fibers and stuff into the atmosphere. You could potentially be putting lead into the atmosphere and breathing that in. If you're working with old paint coatings, so if you're working in older homes, you're changing Bakelite, fans or anything like that, you have the potential to disturb lead paint. And the last one would be the old soldered connections. So even though solder still does contain some lead, you can't get lead-free solder. The older solder is almost guaranteed to have lead in it. I would always recommend, instead of heating it up and pulling the cables apart, just to cut the connections off if you can. Try and eliminate that risk. The next toxic substance we want to talk about are PCBs. So PCBs have been banned worldwide due to their highly toxic impact on the environment and on human health. They can cause severe skin conditions and liver damage, and potential carcinogenic effects. They pose a significant risk when working on the older equipment, such as old circuit boards, the older transformers, capacitors. So when you're working with these sort of materials, you need to take those extra safety precautions.
Sean,
Yep.
There's a bit of a new trend at the moment regarding silica. There's been a real national call to action in the last couple of years. Can you tell us a little bit more about that one?
Yeah, so silica has definitely been pretty predominant in Queensland and ACT at the moment. We do believe it is going to go nationwide. So what the trends you're seeing in Queensland and the ACT will essentially go to the other states as well. But silica is essentially a byproduct from working with products like sand, granite, bricks, concrete, tiles, clay. The stonemasons are probably some of the guys that are copping it the worst for the silicosis. Essentially, by generating dust, so you can do this by cutting, grinding, drilling, chipping of concrete, bricks, essentially any of those materials that contain silica. Breathing in these particles can pose significant health risks, which is why the governments are now starting to implement control measures to stop us from breathing these harmful substances in. The best process for working with silica is the wetting down process. If you can't wet down the material you're working on, so if you're using quick cuts, floor saws, grinders, wetting down, perfect. If you're drilling, most likely on tool dust extraction. But it's very important that you check your code of practice, because that will stipulate what you can and can't do. It'll tell you if you are allowed to wet cut or dry cut, and it'll also mention the RPE that is required. So people like myself with the full beards most likely will not be able to wear the fit tested RPE. But essentially with the silica, once it's inhaled into your lungs, it collects and causes inflammation. The body reacts and creates fiber optic nodules, so like scar tissue, and then around the silica nodules, and then eventually these nodules will grow and collect together, making breathing very difficult. It's non-reversible, so we just need to make sure that moving forward, especially for the young guys out there, we're looking after our health and looking out for our future. We also want to talk a bit about chemicals, so chemical storage as well. I know I've been on site before where the inspectors have come on and given no infringements for the storage. So essentially, you need to make sure that you have a storage locker, especially in containers. You can't just go in and throw your fuel just in there. You need to either put it on some form of bunting, put a storage container in there, and same with some of the other chemicals that you can use. It's also very important to have a register in place for your business with all the SDSs current. So the SDSs are good for 5 years. So make sure you do a review every year just to make sure that all your SDSs are current. And if you're sending guys out there to use chemicals, they must have access to that SDS. That's a pretty big one with all the regulators.
And for those that are new to the industry and don't understand all our wonderful acronyms, what does SDS mean?
So that's your safety data sheet. So your safety data sheet will tell you your chemical handling, the PPE that you're required to use, what kind of ingestation or inhalation can cause diseases and sickness, and also tell you about any form of firefighting and other information.
So a really good information source. Now, obviously, with NECA, we cater to a lot of people, both on the employee side and the employer side. What do you recommend as a safety specialist for employees?
For employees, the biggest thing is to be aware of the potential dangers in our industry, especially in the older buildings and dwellings. Make sure you're following all your company's policies, procedures, and your safe work method statements. These have been generated in regards to the code of practice and other state legislation. So they're there to help keep you safe, not there to just create extra rules. Ensure all your PPE is fit for task and at hand and is in good working condition. Inspect your buildings registers before you commence your work. And if you don't know, ask. You never work on toxic substances unless you have received training and you know how to identify and work safely with that toxic substance.
And what do you recommend for the employers?
For employers, definitely need to perform a risk assessment of your business. You need to find out exactly what chemicals that you're using, what toxic substances that could be present for your workers, and you need to put their relevant control measures and safety training in place just so your workers know what they're working with and how to identify it. You need to implement your policies, your procedures, your safe work method statements, your safe working procedures, which also should define the toxic substances and the chemicals. Implement a chemical register. This isn't just important, it's a requirement. So your chemical register with a detailed list of all the chemicals you're using in your business, and obviously the relevant SDSs for those chemicals as well. Like I said before, provide awareness training. That's one of the biggest things: asbestos awareness, silica awareness. If you're going to be working on the old transformers or you're replacing old light fittings, you need to be aware of the PCBs. And the last thing is make sure you provide all the mandatory PPE with working with toxic substances and chemicals.
I really appreciate you sharing that information and knowledge to the community here. NECA's mission and purpose is to help the trade, help the industry, create prosperity, safety, and a great environment for all employees and employers to thrive in our great electrical industry. So a lot of this information you can be found, including these series, can be found on your members' knowledge base portal. Any of this information, whether it's Toolbox Talks, you're looking at the safety materials, you can put SDS sheets, information sessions, and more streams and recordings like this that can all be found on that one portal. It's the safety side of our organization. It's one of many arms of what NECA provides, whether it be technical advice and technical information, legal. There's so many branches and areas of expertise. So people like Sean, dedicated safety advisors in their team, you can always reach out to you guys when needed, right?
Absolutely. Anytime, any NECA member can reach out to us for a free advisory visits. Or if you just need general inquiries, we can definitely help you out anyway. So if you do need a little bit more help with some of the recommendations or implementing them into your business, definitely give us a call and we can give you advice on how to do that.
We're extremely lucky to have people like you, experienced electricians that come from trade and now want to dedicate your life to making things better. We're gonna wrap up shortly. So there's actually a quiz attached to this, isn't it? So
yeah,
being a actual Toolbox Talk that you're implementing within the business right now, viewing this. So can you tell us about that?
Yep. So at the end of this, you'll see a QR code will come up. You get your workers to scan that QR code, and there'll be a number of different quizzes about the different toxic substances and the chemicals that we spoke about today. This can be used as a gap analysis to see if your workers need any extra training on some of these subject matters. So yeah, definitely get them to fill the quizzes in. They'll get a certificate at the end of it to show that they've participated in today, and then it can go towards your training of your workers.
No, fantastic. We're pretty much going to leave it there. So if you look on your screens, there's going to be the QR code for logins to your member knowledge base. Not only that, there's the QR code for the quiz for this session. We definitely look forward to joining you throughout this journey on the other NECA risk-focused sessions. They're broadcast across the country. As mentioned earlier, we're currently have the pleasure of broadcasting from the Southern Hemisphere's largest electrical wholesaling branch at Hayman's Brisbane Airport here. Thanks for the team. We're definitely going to take a full advantage of the coffees and breakfast that the guys have put on here and talk to some of the NECA members in the room and continue on. So I just really want to thank everyone for taking time out of their business, out of their day, for joining us here. I really appreciate and acknowledge the fact that you guys are here and caring and dedicated towards creating a safer environment within our electrical industry. I'd like to thank Sean for your information and advice. And I'd like to thank the team in the background of NECA for their dedication and support in making these kind of things happen. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.